One more time. Let's do it one more time. Mike.
Davis.
I love doing it one more time. You know Drake recently has a song where he covered that. Did you know that?
I do believe I am up to date on my Drizzy news as a Toronto resident. It's like the law. We have to be aware of everything Drake does. I did know that. Okay, so one more time. Can you name the artist that originally recorded One More Time?
A little Daft Punk?
You got it, buddy.
Yeah. 1 for 1 so far today.
So why am I playing One More Time off the top of this 17th episode of the PPL podcast?
It's sad to kind of discuss, but I'll do it anyway. One more time, because we're just doing this podcast, at least for this summer. One more time. That's a perfect song for this episode, my friend.
And you know, the song is the perfect song. That's why I chose it, because it's One More Time. This is the season finale, the inaugural season of the PPL podcast. This is the finale. We'll be back in September, but more on that later. This song is about one more time. We've got to celebrate. And I was thinking you and I will take a journey in this finale, and it'll be we'll have music going to guide us. But basically looking back, like I'm looking back at this inaugural season of the PPL, and well, let's put it this way.
I thought love was only true in fairy tales.
Yeah, come on. Keep that rolling.
But not for me. Our love was out to get me. That's the way it seemed. Disappointment haunted all my dreams. Then I saw her face. Now I'm a believer.
I know the relevance of this song.
All right, Davis, tell me, why do you think I'm playing some Monkeys? I'm a believer here.
So because you know what? Because our hearts kind of beat as one and our brains think as one.
That's for sure.
I think it's really weird, but I think what you mean by this is like this league's gonna work. You're a believer in this league, aren't you?
So I'm looking back I remember the first time Keith Stein phoned me up and we had a great conversation about the PPL. My first question is, what does that second P in PPL mean? And he's like, Padel. We all know about my struggle saying the word Padel. I still don't know if I'm saying it right, but Padel. Not Padel. It's Padel. Say it again, Davis. Say it one more time.
Padel.
You can't decide either.
Padel.
Okay.
Yeah,
regardless, I embraced the sport, but when I listened to what the PPL had to accomplish in such a relatively short period of time, I was doubtful. But now, Davis, I'm a believer.
Yeah, I'm a believer. I was a believer pretty early on in the process, but I was into it. I was in it. I was involved in it. I was doing things with the Miami Padel Club. Well, you know what? It's funny with Miami Paddle Club, everybody on site for the tournament. I don't think I heard one person say the Miami Padel Club. It's mostly the Miami Paddle Club. So that's something we got to discuss.
We need Marcos. The season premiere of season 2 of the PPL podcast is Marcos explaining how do we say the word Padel.
I think we understand how it's supposed to be pronounced because I've done enough research. We've heard enough people. But even remember, we had MVP of the Pro Padel League, Nico Agratelli, and he was like, "Yo, I've been calling it paddle for years."
But he's American.
True.
I feel like we need more of a Spanish accent on the word padel.
Yeah. I'll get it. Well, Marcos will clean it up for us. He'll clear it all up for us. So, I have a question for you because, the league, we started this podcast and we didn't know anything was going to happen. We didn't know how it was going to run, if it was going to run. It was just like a lot of optimism. Right. Even I remember doing the show on the eve before the league began. When did you start to get that vibe? Like, yeah, this is for sure happening, and there's no doubt about it. I can tell you
exactly. It was. I was invited to a house party the day before the draft. This is when I first met you in the flesh, because prior to that, it was all on Zoom.
Lucky you.
Well, I never forgot that moment. I'm like, look at this tall drink of water. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So I met you. I met so many of the principals, like so many of the
Yeah.
team owners. You know, Sebastian Giovinco was there. Like it was like,
Yeah.
oh, everyone's here. Del Portoro was zooming in. There was like, this is the PPL. These are real people with real passion for this sport and for this league. And I saw like when I could. That was the first time I could visualize that. Oh my goodness, there are 7 franchises with 7 passionate ownership groups or owners and 7 passionate general managers building the best team they can in this draft. And this is going to happen. And that's when I'm like, okay, this is real. This is happening. And then that opening weekend, I followed it on mainly on Instagram, but you were there,
Hmm.
right? Like, tell me about that
Yeah.
opening weekend and when you realized,
Yeah.
oh,
I love that. I
this is
love
happening.
going back. I love going back to that. And so that I mentioned on the podcast, maybe we did even a podcast there that first weekend. I can't remember.
We
It was
did.
a bit of a blur, but that weekend is a major highlight in my not so young career young career in the sport of padel, but in the world of being a GM for a team. That was an overwhelming experience. Fun, nervous, a bit of anxiousness, like just overall for me, I'll never forget what that first weekend felt like. And it exceeded my expectations. And I think we talked about it. There were issues, right? Like I think we talked about not having enough towels, and there were things that you couldn't have known until you had the experience of doing it. And then like every weekend things got cleaned up. But that first weekend, I mean, yeah, the press conference with Daddy Yankee,
Right.
with Del Potro, Tommy Haas, like that set the tone for what was going to be a really, really nice weekend and a lot of great matches. I think that also we talked a lot about what went on with a press release and some of the name dropping, but the matches on that weekend, number one, that's when it was like, okay, this is real. The level of competition is real.
Right. And then every weekend, it more success, like you said, you would break some eggs along the way, but then you'd enjoy an omelet the next week, right? Like that's how it
Yeah.
works. Sometimes you have to do it to know how to do it right. But the PPL adapted, it evolved, it got better, it got better. I could see in Keith, I want to just shout out Keith Stein and Marcos there, that their vision, you could see it in their eyes. And when I looked them in the eyes at that aforementioned house party, it was like, I believe. I was a believer, and I have one more jam. I have a few more jams for you in this season finale, the first season
Can't
finale.
believe it.
Well, more to come here. Here's a jam. You have young children here. I think you might recognize this song.
Okay, hopefully.
We did it! We did it! We did it! Yay! Always team up. We did it! We crawled through doggy doors with our little pup. We did it! We
Shout
did
out
it!
Dora.
Hooray! We stopped the dog catcher and
We did it. Like the fact that you can draw it on the board and you can put good people, in place to succeed, and then we did it. Like Davis,
Yeah.
the PPL did it. What a great first season.
Yeah, we did it, and we did it in a way that I think that you can be proud of, because I think at the end of the day, the product is what mattered the most. Like people on the outside don't know, how the meal plans work for the players throughout the weekends, or where they all stayed. The players' experience, I can tell you, was a good one. But that's just me telling you it is. You'd have to speak to each individual. But as far as just the level of play, the level of play from the very first match right through to the end, and the level of competition, we talked at length about how close the standings were. The Miami Padel Club was the only team that had a record that was going to force them into the playoffs and the number 1 seed, and we ended up losing. That's how close the competition was. But the level of play and the way that the players responded to, because we needed Keith Stein and Marcos, let's face it, this is their baby, right? But for it to have gone as well as it did, they needed all the players to step up, to perform under pressure. And I think that they did that. They couldn't, it was kind of a dream season as far as Because what would have been the worst is if you had lopsided records, where you had, because even the two teams, other than the Toronto Polar Bears, which we've talked about, the other two teams, the San Diego Stingrays and the LA Beat, they were like a mix match away from making the playoffs. So like you can't get closer than that.
It's called parity, right? And it's kind of a sign of a mature league. It's kind of amazing to get that in season 1.
It just goes to show you how in detail each manager was per team to be on top of other people's signings, right? Because that's the hard part when you're running leagues. And I didn't know that until I was a part of this. You have to really pay attention. You can't go into the season without knowing each of the other team's roster.
Right.
And I think that's something we didn't discuss a lot throughout the podcast, is just how much detail the managers of other teams had to, and the type of research, who do you play against a Marta Marrero and a Paloma Cortina? How do you match up with that? Well, each manager did a fantastic job of trying to figure that out. The parity was incredible. It's like, I think it'll be unmeasured. I doubt very much that you'll see another season with the amount of parity that we had in season 1. I think it'd be hard.
But it is exciting to find out. And quick question before I kick out this next jam. Davis, are you an Elvis fan?
I'm a huge Elvis fan. You gonna drop?
Bright light city, gonna set my soul on fire. Got a whole lot of money that's ready to burn, so get those stakes up higher. Thousand pretty women waiting out there. They're all the devil may care, and I'm just a devil.
Are you an Elvis fan?
Spare, so Viva Las Vegas! Viva Las Vegas! How I wish that there were more.
All right, Davis, why am I playing Viva Las Vegas?
Because of how well the Las Vegas Smash performed from game 1 all the way to the championship game, and then they won it. In the first season of the PPL, our champions are the Las Vegas Smash. Congratulations once again to the Smash. A well-earned victory. I mean, we played them. Miami played them in the middle of the season in what I think was the best game of the entire league, including finals, including playoffs. And it came down to the bitter end of a mixed match. And you know what? The well-earned. I mean, that Vegas team, well put together. I thought it was well put together. Are you still jamming out?
Yeah, it's still. I got it like simmering in the low in the mix here. You'll hear it.
Is that a top 10 Elvis song for you?
Well, this is more like, I call it modern Elvis. It's like it's like, what is it? Is this 70s Elvis? Like this is sort of the Vegas years or whatever. And
overweight Elvis.
He's carrying a little bit of extra weight. He needed to play a little more pedal, I think. But this vintage. This is great. I think this is a great Elvis jam. Viva Las Vegas. And it's the only song I could think of when I was thinking of Vegas Smash, the inaugural champions of the PPL, not to bury that lead. And there's something I learned as a diehard Raptor fan, and my team is now sort of rebuilding, but I always say these 3 words: flags fly forever. They can never take that 2023 PPL Cup away from the Vegas Smash. No matter what happens. Like the Raptors will always be the 2019 NBA champions. Flags fly forever, Davis.
Yeah, no, and think about it. It's only going to be harder to win each year. So this year we may have 10 teams, 12 teams, 14 teams. I don't know where it'll stop this season 2.
Right.
But what if in season 3 or 4 there's 16 teams, 8 in a division? It's only getting harder. I mean, this was the only season that you could maybe catch people with their pants down a little bit in regards to like, controversy. Right. But you were not going to do that next year. I think everybody gets, like, that's the cool thing about sports. Every manager knows how Vegas won. And it's not like there's this recipe that you have to do to win this PPL. But what they had was they had a women's team that could match up with any women's team. They had a men's team that dominated or could match up, but mostly dominated. And then you had a mixed team that could also do a bit of that. So they were on paper, and I mean, I knew that from the beginning because I saw who they had. They were so well rounded, and other teams are looking at the Vegas Smash and thinking, how close are we to them? And the reality is they all are. You know, there were a few teams that need to upgrade, probably one player, maybe one male, one female, and then they're going to have their dream pairing. But we could be in for season 2 with another season of a lot of parity, because I really feel like the managers are going to be on top of, you know, who do we fill into there? How do we make our team a little bit better? Because the Los Angeles Beat, their men's team, on paper, I had them as the 1 or 2 best team in the entire league, and they ended up having a 500 record.
Right.
So on the other end of that, their women's team had a losing record. So they're being forced into the mixed a lot, and you're not going to win all those because it's a 50-50 proposition by that point. You know, so that's where I think a lot of teams, and then we don't know the rules. Are they going to let more internationals in? Are they going to still have where you have to have 6 North Americans? We didn't talk about it a lot throughout the season, but Mexico really dominated this league. Not Cancun in general, although they made it to the final, but Mexican-born players dominated our league because they were the dominant nationality in the league and dominant in regards to their level of play. And I think that
like
was
Canadians in hockey, right? You know, you go to watch a hockey game in Frankfurt, Germany, and then you check in and like, oh yeah, these are German Canadians born and raised in Toronto.
Yeah. It's crazy too, like that market, and to jump into it, like, I mean, clearly Cancun had an advantage, but Vegas had 2 or 3 really strong Mexican players too. I actually don't know, other than Toronto, Miami, and even Miami, we had Jose Azripe, who's originally from Mexico, right? So to tap into that market in the Pro Paddle League, I think is going to be the most important move for a general manager in season 2, unless they change international rules. If you can have as many internationals on the team as you want, then Spain will be the dominant country probably picked up, right? But if it's not, and it's still down to 2 internationals, I'm moving to Mexico for a month, buddy.
Lucky guy, I might join you.
You can come. We can do the podcast straight from there.
Done deal, my friend. On that note, so again, this is the season. If you're one thing about podcasts is you can't join a podcast late, like in the radio land or television land. Like if you're joining us late and they have to do a reset, but nobody starts a podcast 2/3 through, so you know what you're listening to.
Yeah.
This is the season 1.
Good point. Never thought of it like that.
Yeah, it's a whole, it's like radio guys do a podcast. If you're joining us late, we're recording the season 1 finale of the PPL podcast. And I'm going to play a song now that I bet you, Davis, you don't know who recorded this song. So you know your music. So don't cheat. Just listen closely, and then let's hear if you have it in that big brain of yours. Here we go.
Okay.
I'll be alone each and every night. While you're away, don't forget to write. Bye-bye, so long, farewell. Bye-bye, so long.
The Happenings.
See you
In September.
See you when the summer's through.
Did you cheat?
No.
Okay, because I wasn't looking at you. I trust you. You know, I trust you like a brother. So you knew that was the Happening.
So, yeah. So I love music. I have a lot of different playlists. I have a 50s, a 60s, a 70s, and 80s and 90s. I have a what I call combo playlist where I do 90s, 80s. I don't have a lot of 2000s because that's when it starts to get a lot of different genres mixed into one. Right. But 80s and 90s pop music, you can combine, and it sounds, at least early 90s can still sound, mind you, 90s pop music could include like Nirvana. So that's very different than the synthesizers of 80s. But I have a 50s, 60s, and 70s playlist, and I have the Happenings on there 2 or 3 times.
Okay, so this is See You in September. Now, Davis, you're a smart guy. You knew it was the Happenings. It's from the mid-60s, I think 1966. Peaked at number 3 in the USA.
Woo!
Why am I playing See You in September?
Because unless you and I get together for an ice cream cone,
Oh, I would do that.
I would do that in a
Are
heartbeat.
you buying?
Yeah, I'm buying.
I like chocolate. Like, I like a chocolate ice cream with like chunks of brownie or fudge in there, like chocolate on chocolate.
So then you like, I think it's a Ben and Jerry's Maui Brownie Madness. Does that sound like an amazing ice cream?
Just hearing you say those words, I'm starting to salivate.
Yeah. So we'll do an ice cream. But besides our ice cream getting in the summertime, this is our last podcast till the fall, until September. And I'm sad a little bit, but also excited that means that we have season 2 coming up, and there'll be more than enough to talk about come September. In fact, there's probably going to be a lot of news throughout the summer months that we're going to miss discussing on the podcast, but we'll make note of it, and I'll be a big part of it because I'm with Miami, so it's not like it'll be forgotten. But it'll be an amazing summer. We can do our thing and then catch up in the fall.
So I will see you for season 2. This is kind of an exciting announcement. Season 2 of the PPL podcast resumes in September. So you're going to have a great summer, right, Davis?
I'm going to have an incredible summer.
Okay, you'd think, okay, Mike, you're closing with See You in September because that sets up season 2. But no.
Are you going to close with something else here?
Just let this wash over you, Davis.
Ladies and gentlemen, the song that we discussed the most on the podcast.
And I think we might have even talked about it early and often, as they say. Here we go.
I see the crystal raindrops fall and the beauty of it all.
What a voice.
Sun comes shining through.
What do you think? Bill Withers' voice or Davis Jamieson's podcast voice? What would you take?
When I think of
Bill Withers 7 days a week and twice on Sunday.
Good answer.
Sing it with me, Davis.
we can make it if you try. Just the two of us.
Just the two of us.
Oh, the PPL podcast, the Pro Paddle League. I love it.
So this is kind of our song. Like when if we were to get married, this would be our first dance song, right?
I have a feeling you'd go cheap on the ring, so I can't see us doing that.
Is that what it's all about to you, Davis? The price of the ring?
Because it's what it represents for the two of us. Like if you give me something cheap, I feel like that's what we are. Cheap.
Okay, well, listen, whatever's in my budget, what is it, 2 months salary? I'm going to do 3 months salary if this happens. But, we're both happily married to other people. So if we had a wedding, which is a big if, this would be our song, just the two of us. We always talk about Bill Withers, but can you name who else is in this duet with Bill Withers?
Can you play it louder?
Yeah, let me turn it up for you here. Are you kidding me for this sax solo? I got to do that.
Like something Washington Jr.
Yeah, you got it. Grover Washington Jr. Okay, good on you. Good on you. Good for you.
I think I got them all today.
Well, I expect nothing less from you. So let me just close with this. And you're going to get the final word on here. You're the host of this fine podcast. Of course, we're going to see everybody. So thank you for listening. Thank you for following along the inaugural season of the PPL. Congrats to Vegas, the champs. I got to thank personally Keith and Marcos and all the owners and the members of the PPL executive team. My future friend, Daddy Yankee. I want to thank you, Davis. This is the most important thing. This is why I'm closing with just the two of us. I want to thank you for being such a fantastic, fabulous host. And now, a dear friend. I'm going to miss you, Davis.
Oh my God. It's emotional. Don't make it emotional. I know. Look at him. Wipe it. Listen, Mike, what an amazing experience it's been so far. This isn't going to be the end, but what a fun ride it was right from the beginning. Thanks to you. I got very much educated on the process of all this. So that's amazing. And that's thanks to you. I want to thank each of the teams. I think we should run them from top to bottom in no particular order. Let's go first with the Las Vegas Smash, our winners. Let's go from the bottom up as far as standing. Let's go Toronto Polar Bears. Big shout out to the Toronto Polar Bears. Big shout out to the Los Angeles Beat. Big shout out to the San Diego Stingrays. Easy for me to say. The Cancun Waves, who finished second, losing out to Las Vegas Smash. We've got the Arkansas Matrix, big playoff contender. Who am I missing? I'm missing big teams. Who am I missing?
Cancun. You said Cancun?
I got Cancun Waves.
Did you say
We got Las
Arkansas Matrix?
We got Arkansas Matrix.
You said Los Angeles Beat?
Yeah.
You said
Who
San Diego?
Yeah.
Stingrays? You said
got them
your
all.
own team, the Miami Pro Padel Club?
Miami. Shout out to Miami and all its players. I love you all. You're the best owners ever. And I'm gonna end this. With something very special to the world, to the podcast world, to the Pro Padel League world, Pro Padel League world. Vamos!
Vamos!